Welcome to I Have Some Questions. The show is all about asking questions our guests have never asked themselves before, never thought about, or been too afraid to explore. It's designed to uncover the human story at the root of successes and failures and help us as an audience learn and grow from that story. My hope is that you'll hear brilliant guests exploring new ideas and challenging themselves in new ways of thinking. I think this makes for great conversations. I'm going to bring on entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, scientists, and frankly, any vein of super interesting, successful, and passionate human I can find. I am fascinated by passionate people, and I have some questions for them. I'm Erik Berglund, and I hope you'll join me every week for new episodes. Welcome back to I Have Some Questions. I'm Erik Berglund, and we're making a slight change to our Monday episodes here. I've really struggled as I've launched this podcast with my solo episodes. And the reason was, if you've listened to any of them, you may have found, the idea of this podcast is I have some questions. And a lot of those episodes were showing up as I have some answers. And that's not what I was looking for. I didn't enjoy making them, even though I like talking about those topics and concepts. I just didn't feel like a podcast was the right way for me to go about it. I wasn't enjoying making them. And so I asked another stellar leadership coach if she would be interested in co-hosting the Monday episodes with me. So that's what's going to happen moving forward in these episodes. It's going to be a conversation around some of these questions with another highly qualified coach. And I think they should present a more interesting angle, and certainly they'll be more fun for me to make. So I'm hoping that that translates over to you. So my guest in these episodes, my co-host in these episodes is Alli Murphy. Alli is a leadership strategist, a coach, and a speaker, and she's the founder of Work and Thrive HQ. Alli primarily works with ambitious women leaders, and she tries to help them build careers that feel just as good as they look on paper. She's really known for being very warm, direct, and refreshing and practical. Hope that comes through in our conversations here. And she tries to teach a new playbook for leaders that blends ambition and well-being. She's been on over 650 stages as a speaker. She's worked with the largest companies out there, Microsoft, Best Buy, the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And before launching her company, she was a managing director that scaled seven-figure programs and really led organizational transformation while really championing a people-first culture and consistently taking 5 or more weeks of work-free PTO. She's very good at practicing what she preached. And today, her talks and programs really help women trade the old success playbook of always on for one that's really built on authenticity, energy, and leadership that lasts. And while Alli is primarily focused on working with women, she also runs My Language of Leadership program. She's the facilitator in those programs. That's how we've come to get to know each other better and better. And everything she talks about in her programs is highly applicable to us men as well. So I hope you'll join me in welcoming her on these Monday episodes. I'm going to post the links to her LinkedIn and her website and all those details in the show notes for Mondays. But I'll hope you'll join me for this episode of I Have Some Questions with my co-host, Alli Murphy. Alli, you shared this link with me of this Amy Poehler article. It says she's never taken a sick day. We were sold a productivity myth, and you shared this CNBC link. We'll include it in the show notes. This is something like we both see often, like people who what's your reaction and what caused this to catch your attention as we kick off this combination show here?
Honestly, the first thing I did was say, hold on, did I read that right? Like, really? You never took a sick day in your entire career? And I saw just the headline or the title of the article first, and I was like, there's gotta be something in here. Like, there's a catch, there's a hook, this is some sort of clickbait, and it's not. You literally read the article, and she talks about working with 104-degree fever. Someone else talks about working with, like, pneumonia or something. And I was floored. Maybe I shouldn't be. Like, I know how many leaders struggle to take time off of work, but usually I'm talking about vacations, not
Sure.
sick days. And it's one thing to maybe have a cold, especially if you work from home, and to work through it. I feel like it's another to have 104-degree fever and be working on set. Like,
yeah, I'd be pretty pissed if my coworker shows up and gets close to me with 104-degree fever. I'm personally going to be pretty pissed. Like, I don't want your fever. I don't want your cold. I'm very uninterested in catching whatever you've clearly got happening in your body. So please don't bring it to me. I don't want anything to do with that.
So what you're saying is next time we grab coffee together, really, let's be honest, it's going to be a dirty chai. The next time we do that, I shouldn't join if I have a fever. That's not what you want?
I'll have to ask you to this time not sneeze on my coffee for me. Like, as long as you prevent, like, don't do that. You could probably sit like a little further away or something. I don't know. I think it is weird to figure out the balance point because, like, at another point in the article, they talk about how these young actors these days will call in for just a cold, right? And I think, like, I know I've coached clients around this concept in the recent, like, last couple of weeks, and I don't know what the right balance point is. Cause like on the one hand, yeah, please don't come get me sick. If you have anything that could be contagious, don't do that.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, like there is some degree of resilience required to get good enough at what you do to like make a dent or to have an impact, particularly like acting or something high performance like that. And also just to demonstrate grit to like your boss at some point or another, you kind of want to know your team will fight through some things. Yep. But I also want to know that they won't fight through some things, you know, like I don't know how to think about that balance point for other people, but that's how I consider it.
Well, I also think it's interesting to look at it, not just from a high performance lens, because that's totally true, but also from I was gonna say in office. I don't know that acting is really in office, but like around other humans versus I work from home, because I think there's a different play there of I'm not going to get you, Erik, sick through a computer. Like that literally doesn't happen. But I think when COVID entered the world, sure, part of it might be Gen Z wanting more work-life balance, and honestly, more power to them. Like this hustle culture needs to go bye-bye, in my opinion. That can be a whole different episode. But I also think that COVID made it so much easier for people to be like, ooh, let me step back and think about this differently. But on the flip side, I'm curious, Erik, have you ever kicked anybody out of work for being sick? Because I have.
Yeah, I can't name the specific situation, but like back when I led a sales team, I can think of at least two specific individuals that I know. I was like, yo, you're not like, no, you go. Like, this is not, you're not walking into that customer with me this way. Like, that's not okay. And that was the context of like, they were trying to fight through, right? They had a day with their boss. They had a customer visit or something, and they were troopers. And while I appreciated it, like it would have been irresponsible. And frankly, had I been the customer, I would have been even more pissed that you brought that guy into my office. So I absolutely have made him sit in the car while I went and did the thing and then came back out and they had to go home. What was your situation? What was your scenario?
So mine was when I was a managing director, I had fully remote team. So I live in Bend like you do, and my team is spread across mostly the East Coast. And I had one person on my team who was just not feeling well. And it was later in the day, and we hopped on a one-on-one, and she's like sniffling, and I can tell her brain's not working well. And she's like, yeah, I just feel like crap, or some version of that. And I look at her and I go, so why are we having this call? And she goes, because this has to get done and this, and I want to give you an update on this and this. And I was like, okay, again, why are we having this call? And she goes, because it's on my calendar or something, like because I have a job to do. And so then I go, all right, what actually has to get done today? And by this point it was afternoon. I was like, what actually has to get done today? She rattles off 4 things or 5 things. And I go back and I say, come ask again, with a smile on my face. I was like, what actually has to get done today? Because that list of 4 did not. And I think that's so much of the mentality that we're all trained with and rewarded for, and like that hustle culture of like, well, I have to do this, and there's always more, and my list never finishes. And when I forced her to, like, when I asked her the question again, she gave me one thing. And I was like, okay, and how long is that going to take you? She was like, 2 minutes. I was like, great. We're going to end this call. You're going to go do that thing for 10 minutes, and then you're off. I will go tell the rest of the organization that you are taking a sick afternoon for the rest of the day, and they can come to me if they need something, but you are off your computer. And she was like, okay, that sounds great. And then slept for 14 hours or something.
That's so funny because there's probably a few ways we could take this, and there's a bunch of lanes here to run in. But one is that I heard there that's interesting is like, let's take sickness out of the equation.
Okay. Let's
just say at the beginning of the day, your boss challenged you and said, hey, Alli, what really has to get done today? Like, that sure feels like something that most of us are a little bit out of touch with. Like, I remember reading, when I was like 20, I read The 4-Hour Workweek, which just blew my mind at that point, right? Like, arguably, like the most influential or influenceable time of your life, early 20s, and I'm become just obsessed with the Tim Ferriss perspective on this. And he had this attitude of like, well, if you can't boil down your day to two things, and those are the most important two things, you're not thinking correctly about your business. And that was just like mind blowing to me at a young age, which when you're 20 and you're doing relatively low skill work, you can't. There's just too many things to do, right? But that mentality really stuck with me. So maybe sickness is just a good example or a way to get to this conversation. But like, how good do you think we are at really identifying the things that must happen on any given day, regardless of whether we have something trying to pull us out of it or not?
Okay, I love this question. And I think there's two different answers, or I guess there's one answer with two parts. I think we are capable of doing this. Like, we have the skills to do it. And when we take the time to step back and actually answer the damn question instead of give 17 things instead of 2, I think we're decently good at it. Where I think we get stuck is we never give ourselves the time. We never take the step back. We think, oh, if you work for somebody else, like my boss wants this done tomorrow, marketing needs this thing, my direct report needs me to approve this piece. So like all of that happens. And I think we confuse urgent and important a lot. I also have this really strong belief that 99%, all right, maybe 95% of urgent things at work are a joke. Not because the thing is a joke, but because they're human manufactured. Like, it didn't have to be urgent. It's because somebody missed a deadline.
Sure.
Some leader wanted to do something else. And so now it's a problem, or we have poor communication. And so I think if we took the time to really step back and close everything down and think what actually has to get done today and forced ourselves to only have 2, I think people could get there. But it's not a practice we have, or the majority of people have. But what do you think? Would you disagree?
Well, no, I concur, right? I think I have a thing on my calendar every Friday called Focus Friday, and it's like my reminder to look at my following week calendar and kill anything that doesn't need to happen. And I can't claim I'm like awesome at it yet. It's a relatively new practice, but like that concept of taking the time to check in and be like, what really is mission critical? What's urgent? What's important? What's strategic? What's delegatable? Like that. Just blocking the time in the calendar alone to do it is something that I don't think we do very well, let alone having it like as a muscle memory or part of a corporate culture or DNA or something. But I had a guy on the podcast last week before, can't remember. And he had a funny saying. We were talking a lot about Gen Z mentalities and things along those lines. And he was telling me he took this quote from one of his clients who was like, it's PR, not the ER. Like,
yes,
how deluded
we're not doctors
are we?
Saving lives.
Yeah, how deluded are we to think that urgent really means urgent in that way? And that's not to say that nothing is urgent. There absolutely are things, but it's kind of like that. If everything's on fire, nothing's on fire. And it's kind of self-reinforcing. The more busy I make myself feel, the more I feel like I get validated because I'm busy. Yep. And I'm guessing you've seen that a lot, right? Did you ever feel like when you were in your leadership role at that old company that people felt like they had to impress you by how busy they were?
I should actually go back and ask my team and other people. I would suspect that it was, if I'm being honest, I would suspect that it was less about me and more about proving how busy they were to other members of the leadership team.
Sure, right. Maybe not been Alli, but like I have to prove outwardly I have stuff to do. I'm important.
Or I respond quickly. I'm the first to answer an email. I've checked my Slack. This thing is done before X leader logs on. I think all of that is true. And what's wild to me is how much research there is out there now about how being that plugged in, being always on, being in the back-to-back meetings is not actually good for us. Yeah. And when you think about the fact that business is there, at least in a capitalistic society, to make money and to drive returns, why aren't we doing it in a way that's actually better for humans that would then drive more success?
Yeah.
But like the system's backwards and hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons for that are built into the system and the process and all of that. But like at its core, we know that working overtime hours reduces productivity for the worker. Like this is super well proven in labor research and the trades. That like you just accept a productivity decline after a certain number of hours. And it isn't really time, it's exhaustion.
Right, for sure.
As a function of time. And so if we know that people are exhausted or sick or just not operating at full capacity, why don't we recognize that that's going to lead to diminished returns? I mean, it's easy for you and I to sit over here on our high horses on a podcast and say that, and we both run leadership companies that help people change it, but like, that is the nature of it. Have you seen any companies, or do you know of any leaders who are like really good at breaking this, like in their organization, maybe not just individually, though maybe individually, but with other people that they lead? Who's a rock star of not doing this?
Oh, I would love more examples. Like the people that come to mind, I can't for sure say do this, but they're in this world that we're talking about. And Ariana Huffington of Thrive Global comes to mind. And her big story was when she was so burnt out that, I'm not going to get it quite right, but she essentially fell, and I think she hit her face and ended up in the hospital. And that was kind of, how do I do things differently from here? Another one is Satya Nadella, but I don't know. I can't think of somebody specific off the top of my head that does this really well. I'm guessing they're out there, but I also think it goes back to, this stuff is hard to do. Like if we take me as an example, I help people with this, and that hustle, there's 17 things to do. Oh, I finished this email, or I finished this call. Let me go check my email first before I walk away. Like that programming is still in my head. And so I call these things nervous system recess, not reset, but like recess, because it's a play on being a kid again. And it's like, I'm going to have a nervous system recess and I'm going to walk away for 2 minutes. But with the urgent, important, or the priorities, kind of similar to you on Fridays, I map out what are my 3 things that I have to get done next week. And then I share those with my team. We talk about them on Fridays. We've got a whole hour-long meeting that talks about that and the past week, blah, blah, blah. And then every morning, because I know myself and I like some shiny rabbit holes, my assistant sends me a Slack message. It's literally pre-scheduled. And she goes, hey, Alli, what are your top priorities for the day? And my job is to respond with, these are my 3 priorities or my 2 priorities. And not going to lie, today there were 5. So did I do a good job of getting down to 2? No, but some of those habits and practices make it better over time.
Yeah, and I suspect you don't just like land at 2, right? You probably start with 7 and then you get really good at 6 and then it feels impossible, but you get to 5 and then like, you know, you think bigger and bigger, or you add more automations, or you leverage AI more, right? And you just over time whittle it down. So like 2 is an end goal, not a starting point.
Yeah.
But like a finite number is a hell of a starting point, right? A single digit
versus
finite number. Yeah, like that's a win. That would be pretty cool to embrace. I wonder where this breaks down.
Say more.
Well, like you and I both run, thought leadership oriented businesses, small teams. We're not scaling the service side of our businesses, and that's not really the goal. And so we have a different set of parameters and context than, let's say, you run a manufacturing company, or you produce a digital asset, or you are in a time-sensitive business with high risk of failure, like either playing a professional sport. Yeah. You only have an hour to perform the basketball game in, so you better be really good in that hour, or life-saving, like an EMT or something like that.
Or
so
I was even thinking like nonprofits that save the children, or care packages from CARE, et cetera.
Yeah, maybe mission-oriented business where the risk of failure is high. The risk of failure is high everywhere, but there's something different. There's something differentiating in those contexts to the point where there needs to be a different structural approach, which is what like trauma EMTs have. Like shift work exists for a reason. Yeah. Like, nope, you're off the clock. You are allowed, like,
you are done.
You actually don't have an infinite number of things to do. You have 8 hours to do all the things necessary. And then please get out of here because we know you break. So they actually make different accommodations in some of these situations, and compensation is different. If we go to the high performance ones, right? The Amy Poehler worlds, the professional athlete worlds, there is something compensatory in those environments that is different than the one we're talking about, which is an unnecessarily busy, self-reinforcing culture in corporations.
Okay, but also Amy Poehler doesn't fit this example, so we're going to put that to a side for a second. But the other things that you described, athletics, doctors or EMTs, or my brain also went to bus drivers you are off the clock.
There you go.
Or like flight attendants, they clock, like there's sorry, our flight was delayed and my crew timed out. Now we need to wait for a new one. Every single one of those sports, I would say more than any of the others, have rest baked in as a performance strategy.
Great.
Like it is not, let me do this rest thing. Like, this is the thing I've earned or the thing that I get now that I'm done. It's literally like, no, I do this thing so that I don't get injured, so that I can be at the top of my game, so that I don't kill people in a plane. Like we're going pretty far there. But rest is part of the strategy. It's not this add-on fluffy thing.
Do you think it seems like that would be forced because competition would make you so aware of it, or the consequence of failure would make you so aware that you need to make that change? Like, for example, I've heard LeBron James's trainer speak about this before, where it was like 1 year, the whole strategy for LeBron was to make sure he got 9 hours of sleep instead of 8.5. And like, that was the change we were making, which
is wild.
Is insane, right? You have it dialed that to that process. But at the same time, that only happens because there's some feedback loop. There's some part where he's saying, I'm not performing at the same level. We didn't win, whatever it might be, right? There's some feedback that pushes that change back into those systems. Or a pilot crashes a plane or has a near encounter, and that forces it back into the system. Do you think we're missing that feedback loop mechanism? That can we just not feel or see the pain of an exhausted workforce well enough, and that's what's preventing us from implementing something like this seriously?
Gosh, if I had the answer to that question, I think I'd be rich and speaking on stages
let's just
everywhere.
do that. For these other companies, let's just go answer
Here's
that.
the answer. This does not answer your question, but two things come to mind. One, hustle culture and get everything done and work around the clock and just climb the ladder for the sake of climbing the ladder has become glorified in so many ways that's kind of the only, quote, the only way to succeed. But two, the data's there. I think your point about, is it not painful enough? So I don't know if you ever saw Microsoft Human Factors Lab did a study, 4 years ago, that was what happens to, actually it was probably during the pandemic. It's what happens to our brains on Zoom, essentially. So like on back-to-back meetings, what happens to our brains? And then if you have 5 minutes in between each meeting, what happens? And you can see there's a visual of 5 brains on each, and there's blue on the top and red on the bottom, or maybe it's vice versa. But the point is that if you go through back-to-back meetings, you are exhausted, your brain doesn't work as well, nothing works well. But if you have a 5-minute break between meetings, which sounds so simple, creativity goes up, you're less exhausted, you have more ideas, like all of these different things happen. But most people don't work that way.
Yeah.
Like the data's there, but there's a disconnect between, we'll call it at this point, athletics and the corporate or nonprofit or insert industry that isn't athletics or forced rest.
Interesting. All right, so let's switch this up a little bit. Can you steelman the case for hustle culture?
I don't know if this is an age thing or an I didn't grow up in the US thing, but what does steelman mean?
It's can you make the case for? Can you adopt the perspective of this and share some relative merit that it's based upon? Is there any truth to the concept of push through when you're sick, of develop grit to maximize the value and output of your day? Or is it all a farce?
Oh my gosh, you're taking me back to like debate in high school, because my brain and my body immediately go, no. Like,
you
no,
all can't see Alli, but if you see her she recoiled visibly from the concept of defending this position, which is, what makes it a fun question.
Okay, but I vehemently disagree with the position if we're talking about a career. That said, when you're doing something new, you're joining an organization for the first time, or when I did a triathlon this year for the first time, or you're managing a team, like there are times where things get hard or you have to put more in and things need to shift. So you need some grit. You need to be able to look at something and go, okay, this requires more of me than I want to give, and I'm going to for a season, or I'm going to for the next month, or whatever it might be. I think the issue is when that becomes the norm. And when everything is, well, let me add to this, and let me add to this, and let me add to this. And it's almost like, Oh my gosh, what is it? Is it the hedonic treadmill? Is that what it is? Where it's like success is this bar, and then when you reach it, it's no longer good enough. So success climbs and you keep getting further and further and further away. And that's why getting the raise or getting the promotion or getting the fancy car never feels like enough, because that measure and that bar keeps moving. And so I think about it that way of like, yeah, you need to give more sometimes, and don't let that take over forever.
I think that's a good parameter set point. And if I had to steel man the case for it,
go for it.
I think there's a tremendous amount of value in knowing that when the moment arises, you can, and that you're good at distinguishing that moment. Your ability to determine this is a situation that requires grit. And yes, I'm not feeling well, but it's time to push through because it's still safe because we're virtual, or I'm not contagious, but I don't feel well, or whatever. You have to have a well-refined sense of capability to determine which side of the coin you're on there. Otherwise, you default to the easiest one. In order to develop that sense and, frankly, increase the battery pack so that your floor is higher, you probably do have to push more frequently, right? We know this to be true in like weightlifting, or like to your point, if I'm going to go run a marathon, the only way to get your body to the point where it can really run 26.2 miles is to progressively tax it and go, you can't run 8. Yeah, you can. You can't run 9. Yeah, you can. And then psychologically, you're building your capability to identify what your body feels like when it's genuinely breaking versus when you just want to quit. Yeah. So we know this is true physically and mentally. And I think there is a value in building that. And I think you've identified at least one of the critical set points. It's like, well, yeah, but don't normalize running ultra marathons every day. If you go through a season of testing and building and then normal, and then testing and building and then normal, that actually follows the physiology example too, right? Of like bulk and lean, and bulk and lean, right? So as long as we don't lose sight of the bigger picture of it and just fall in love with the narrow, always be pushing, I think there is a lot of value in somebody learning how to fight through being sick or pushing harder, not quitting, etc.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I'm just never going to be the Alex Hormozis of the world of just push forever, or the Elon Musk. Like, that's just, I'm a different human. We're just going to go with that.
I think some of it is also like you bring up those guys, and some of it is also like mission attachment, I think. I don't know about you, but like I really struggle with this. And I've coached people through mission, vision, values work in the past. Do you have a clear sense of your own mission? Do you have a firm attachment to a bigger picture mission that you're like convicted to bring into the world? I really don't.
So, interesting question. For like Work and Thrive HQ, no, that's something that I'm still mulling over and this and that. But when I did my solo retreat in February out on the coast one day, I was sitting there over the water and I was like, I think I came out of a meditation or something, and I opened my eyes and I was like, oh, my mission is to help myself and others live better lives, healthier, happier, more fulfilled ones. Could that be a variety of things? Yeah, but it was like this little lightning bolt of insight for me. And so that's something I'm holding on to. The how might shift, but I think it's really aligned with practically everything I've done in my life and what I want to be doing now.
Yeah.
But I also still have to take care of myself to be able to do that.
For sure. Yeah, and that might be the distinction we're drawing more than anything. But I do also think there's a portion of people I've met or experienced personally or seen from afar who have like severe conviction around the work that they're doing. They feel a pressure that this is their purpose. And like for those folks, I mean, if that's what satisfaction is and you're like so convicted about it, like I think there's maybe a different limit than if you're maybe more like me, where I'm like, I have things I really value to a very high degree, but something I really would like charge the hill for every single day out of a passionate conviction I must go execute on it. I don't have that. Versus some people I think like live that every day. And maybe those are some of the types of folks we see pushing hustle culture the wrong direction because that's what people are emulating.
Okay, so we've talked about a variety of different things today.
Yeah.
And my brain goes, how do we want to wrap this up? Or like, what is the takeaway that we want to leave people with?
All right. So let's each take like maybe 10 seconds. What is the thing you want to leave people with? You first.
I feel like there's probably 17 different ideas from like set your priorities the day before to ask yourself the question 3 times. But I think what I would actually say is coming back to where we started. And that is permission. I struggled to give myself permission for so many years. And most of the women that I work with also struggle to give themselves permission to step back, to take the vacation, to not check Slack at 5 a.m. So for me, it would be, you have permission to use your sick days. Like, that's allowed. You are allowed to walk away from work. They are there. You can go enjoy your grit and your grind next month when you've got a big project coming up. But like, you have permission to take the damn day. What about you?
I think the one that's jumping out is the people who are in the highest stakes fields in our societies, whether they control people's lives like an airline pilot, or they're highly compensated like LeBron James, or their lives are at risk like a soldier or special forces. The people who have to perform at the highest levels value rest.
Yeah.
And if they rest too much, they're no longer in the NBA. So there's a balancing point here to find that's specific for your role, and that's probably the most important thing to do.
I love it.
Good chat. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
See you next time. Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to take a second and subscribe. Maybe even share this episode with somebody it made you think of, or someone you think would take some value from it. This show is all about uncovering the brilliance and humanity of high performers. And whether those performers have a massive following, or a podcast, or a book, or they're a business owner, or they're buried somewhere in a corporation, or maybe they're a nonprofit leader, or they don't necessarily have to have a title. I'm really fascinated by people who are passionate and who are doing interesting things. So if you or somebody you know would be a good guest, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or send me an email at hello@languageofleadership.io to make that connection. I'll see you next week.